And welcome to the Game Buzz, where we comb through the week's news and bring you some insight and criticism and basically look at all the bulletins and have a big chinwag about it. I'm Matt, and I'm joined here once again by John Lester
Hi there.
and Carl Phillips.
Hello.
I want to start out with a revisitation to that Microsoft hashtag, hashtag deal with it, because they haven't dropped that. Don Matrick came out today and delivered a firm statement on Microsoft's position for you gamers who are worried about the always online, the sort of quite draconian online requirements for the Xbox One. And we now have a solution to that problem, don't we?
Yes, he did. Well, first of all, he said, we appreciate your passion. He said, we appreciate that you feel passionately about this online check-in thing. And he said, look, you're dwelling far too much on the negatives at the moment. You're not being anywhere near as optimistic enough about this. And in many ways, I think he has a point, because the whole 24-hour online check-in thing is automatic. And the fact is, most of us play our Xbox 360s right now while always connected to the internet anyway. It's not necessarily as big a deal as a lot of people make out. The problem is that he was a little bit of a dick about it, because, when it came to suggestions for people who don't have stable internet or really fast, stable broadband, his solution was, well, just buy a 360. He just said, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've been seriously positioning themselves towards a sort of affluent American market for some time. And sort of just short of coming out and saying, we don't want your kind on Xbox One. This was kind of almost as close to that as you could get without being
Yes, he's almost sort of he's almost sort of created two distinct classes of gamers. You've got the Xbox One sort of elite class up there, lording it over everyone with their fast internet and their powerful online services, and then you've got the peasantry who don't have these fantastically robust broadband internet connections that are always guaranteed to work, and you can just use your Xbox 360 that you've already have. No Xbox One for you, no more exclusives for you. So that came across as incredibly callous. And I think Phil Spencer actually weighed in to defend Don Matrick and saying, look, Matrick started out as a developer. He's just a passionate guy trying to, put his point across. There might have been a bit of a tongue in cheek, but you can't quite shake the whole deal with it hashtag, can you? Like, he might as well have just said that. He might as well have just been wearing a T-shirt saying deal with it, because this is happening. So either deal with it or, stay in last gen. It's fine.
I mean, there's something to be said about exclusivity breeding desirability, but but this is actually just full-blown exclusion. Kind of just like, well, suck it. Like, keep your Xbox 360. Like, you can't play backwards compatible games on the Xbox One anyway. Just like stick there if you don't have the right kind of internet.
Yeah, because otherwise we don't
want
our system. It's fine. It's like all of you regions in the world who, arguably we should be targeting with this console, especially in lots of developing economies that are actually proving to be increasingly big players in both game development and consumption. Yeah, fuck off, buy 360. So that's not exactly perhaps. Well, I say that it's not a forward-thinking move. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a very forward-thinking move. Getting a foot in the door of the digital-only future and the always-online future and the cloud-based future. I mean, yeah, it's very forward-thinking, but perhaps Microsoft are moving just a little bit too fast. And also, as many readers have pointed out, there is, of course, another option if you don't have stable broadband, which is called a PlayStation 4.
Yep, there is that.
So there is definitely that.
On the other hand, though, I do agree with you in that he has a certain point in terms of the negativity, but I do feel that's kind of because Microsoft haven't really made a point of properly explaining the positives to always online. I mean, Peter Molyneux was saying this a little bit in sort of the post-press sort of interviews he was having on game trailers. The fact that Microsoft haven't detailed the really awesome, cool things, and there are really awesome, cool things that can be done with the always-on requirement with the sort of connected features that they're bringing to Xbox One. Instead, they've couched it in terms of exclusion, and so we're not really seeing the benefits. We don't have anything to weigh those negatives against, apart from like vague statements and even vaguer game trailers.
Yes. Well, it basically came down to some of Microsoft's engineers to try and explain some of these benefits, which came out in an interesting statement saying basically that, yeah, you are always going to be connected, but because you're always connected, we've got this enormous server farm, this armada, this flotilla of servers behind the scenes that will not only make the Xbox One 10 times more powerful than an Xbox 360, but also can tap into limitless cloud processing power. Yeah.
Thing
So,
is, like, as Molyneux was saying, like, if you couch that in terms of cool games, and you brought up Clash of Clans, and Clash of Clans is always online. Lots of people play Clash of Clans. They don't really care that it's always online. That was his point. But if you couched it in the terms of cool games, like, look what we could do with this, more people would be going, this is totally badass and awesome, rather than going, why are you spying on me, you bastards? Like that's kind of what I was hoping they'd do. Like they dumped the bad news beforehand, so they could sort of just like blow us all away with the positives, and we wouldn't really remember the sort of the fact that that it would automatically have to log on every 24 hours or anything like that. We'd just be like, well, I want these gaming experiences. Give me those gaming experiences, Xbox One. Yes.
well, there is one ray of light in all this, in that we do actually have one benefit couched, as you say, in terms of cool games in Titanfall. Because EA came out, and it's interesting that Microsoft had to look to their third-party partners for this, but EA came out and said, look, Xbox One has this enormous server infrastructure that we can use. We don't have to set this up ourselves. We can just use to provide everyone who plays Titanfall with dedicated servers as standard at no extra cost.
That's pretty cool.
Which is going to practically guarantee us incredibly fast, incredibly low latency matches. That is a tangible benefit. That is one of the few actual, real, sort of practical applications of this that we're seeing at the moment. But otherwise, yeah, all we've got are vague promises of, oh yes, we can offload all of this this processing to the cloud, and I'm sorry, no, you can't really. Like most of us have trouble running on live with the connections that we have. So forget about offloading a load of like lighting, like graphical processing and stuff like that to the cloud. That's not feasible. Like to do that, you have to have almost no latency whatsoever, and that's kind of an impossible dream at the moment. But on the other hand, it will make the Xbox One a very cool platform for MMOs, because developers who want to make one will be able to essentially rely on Microsoft. Microsoft have already got that infrastructure in place, all those servers ready that can be sort of switched on and slaved together at will and switched off when they're not needed. There's an enormous infrastructure there for developers to draw on and take advantage of, but we don't know anyone who's actually doing that yet. Well, compared to people like Sony Online Entertainment, who are going to be running stuff like PlanetSide 2 on the PS4 just fine.
Yeah, I suppose, Carl, you're our MMO expert. What does it kind of mean in terms of the possibilities for bringing MMOs to consoles and the kind of pricing stuff and the sort of revenue stream that they might generate, especially if companies end up exploring free-to-play and sort of stuff like that? What's your sort of take on it?
I'm not entirely sure, in all fairness, because, well, this whole talk of saying that Microsoft will be able to host servers for them, that's fine, but they say free to charge, but I mean, we've seen what they've done with games patching in the past. Yeah. Are they going to be throwing in something like that? Because the thing is with MMOs, they are constantly being patched, constantly having content thrown at them. And they are not going to let people update on them for free, surely. Surely.
I would assume that, yeah, what we don't know at the moment is how much it will actually cost developers and publishers to take advantage of that. How much in terms of licensing they're going to have to pay out, whether or not they'll have to pay Microsoft hosting, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
That's
So
my
you're
worry.
right. That could be a big sticking point. And I mean, Microsoft aren't a charity. This isn't going to be free, as you've said. It costs tens of thousands of pounds just to patch something like Fez. So yeah, we're going to have to. Of course, there'll be options for people to host themselves. Naturally, the big MMO players on the scene will naturally have their own servers, probably. But I think it's I think it's definitely an interesting idea. But at the moment, it is literally just that, an interesting idea.
I also have a theory about the cloud processing that we've just been discussing. Surely all of that stuff has to be optional anyway, because I mean, yes, we've been going on about the negative of internet going down, but let's say that does happen. What happens if like half the processing is taking place in the cloud? What happens to the game?
Well, the game itself becomes an MMO. Like, I would assume that like a lot of games perhaps will rely on doing server-side sort of AI and stuff like that.
Then the AI stops moving.
Well, no, the game stops. It's, to do that, to fully take advantage of that, the game will have to be always online. It'll have to be something like Diablo 3.
And that's my slight worry.
Yep. So, but that's the thing. That's what Microsoft are looking for. Microsoft is saying, look, this is an always connected console. That is something they're going to be looking to push. And I think there are some exciting applications
there.
Absolutely. I think at the moment, like it's all very vague kind of jargon being disguised as awesome benefits, really.
I know that the internet isn't necessarily the best in the UK compared to other countries. We don't have the fastest internet, so we are of course talking from the perspective of a UK consumer. But yeah, it's not stable enough for us anyway right now, and fair enough because we're not getting half the features anyway until 2014. But that's still not the point. I can't see the internet getting any more stable by then.
It sort of depends on the balancing, doesn't it? I mean, if you have we saw this with SimCity. It depends how they market these games. If they market them as sort of MMOs, people understand what that is. I mean, certain console gamers will have to come to understand what that is. But as long as there's a balance with sort of games that will run offline, that do have sort of single player and maybe local multiplayer components to them, I don't think that will necessarily be a huge issue, because sort of server-side issues are something that MMO players already deal with. Of course, this will be potentially on a much broader multi-title scale across multiple different platform holders. It'll be interesting to see. But you're right. This whole as we move towards this digital cloud-based living in the skies kind of future, there's a whole plethora of new issues that gets thrown up, and it'll be. I think that's kind of why I preach caution in my. That's another point I could have added to my article preaching caution about being an early adopter for next gen, because, to be honest, we have no idea exactly how well this will all work.
Yeah.
Can't wait to find out, though.
Oh, absolutely. It is all very exciting, but at the same time, that there are still a lot of questions.
And you're right about the UK thing as well, because at some point there's going to come a clash between content providers and ISPs. I really hope the content providers sort of win out, because fucking hell, ISPs, do better. Do better. Why does it take a month to set up a fucking internet line when you move house? You bastard. Anyway, off topic. Let's get back on topic with more games news. And
shall we stick on Microsoft perhaps, because they have revealed how achievements will work going into the next generation, which is going to be super exciting for those of us who like arbitrary rewards for things. And yeah, the Xbox One is going to offer traditional achievements that will unlock gamer scores as you play games, but you will also be able to earn achievements for watching television. Woo! Now, these things won't come with any gamer score, but interestingly, for both games and TV, there will now be more sort of tangible benefits to unlocking achievements. Apparently, on the games front, they'll tie it into sort of in-game stuff, like potentially you can even unlock maps which seems a bizarre way of gating off multiplayer maps. But apparently you'll be able to unlock things like maps or content or even sort of boosts and buffs by unlocking achievements, in-game content. While on the TV side of things, you may even apparently be able to get sort of subscription lengthening little packages. I can't see too many providers doing that, but apparently there'll be a raft of sort of extra fun little rewards that you'll be able to get for unlocking achievements. But also there will be challenges. We all know how this will work. A lot of games do these sort of time-based online challenges that pop up and say for 24 hours, if you fulfill these specific criteria, you will get a little reward. And the Xbox is going to do this sort of system-wide. So developers are going to be able to add challenges into their games on the fly and say, you know, complete this specific objective, or even a sort of global objective for all players. And your reward for doing so will essentially be that the onboard DVR on the Xbox One, which everyone seems to have forgotten about, will actually record your achievement for posterity. So everyone can look at it and say, gosh, how isn't he magnificent? So yeah, fans of arbitrary... you'll get a big, shiny, lovely little banner logo badge thing as well. So fans of arbitrary rewards for things will be well away this next generation.
I like the time challenges. I like things that sort of add value to games like that. I mean, we said this about achievements and in the past, and that's kind of nice. I'd like to see them tie in maybe a little bit. I don't know. Some people like avatars. Tie it into like having a hat. That'd be great. You know, just a little thing. I'm not so sure about this whole TV thing, and I don't see it as you said. I don't see it necessarily working hugely well with third parties in a sort of reward perspective. But I do think for stuff like that live action Halo program, for example, there'll obviously be some sort of tie-in there between that and whatever.
Yeah, you'll almost certainly be able to get your hands on
game.
some. Yeah, you'll be able to get your hands on some exclusive like helmets or something by doing that, won't you?
Which is quite nice. Which is quite nice in a way. But if it comes down to the sort of thing where it's kind of like, if you've watched 90 hours of Netflix this week, you get the new Arrested Development early, or something like that. No. And there have been a couple of cynical comments on the site suggesting like, watch this advert in full, and we'll show you the second half of your film.
And of course, Kinect is going to be able to detect when you look away from the advert and pause it, and play an incredibly loud, piercing sound until you look back at it and it resumes playback. Yes. And yes, I have been watching Black Mirror recently. Thank you. So there will be achievements in the next gen. This is, to be honest, I was a huge score whore back in the day, but I've actually moved past that because I play on a lot of platforms now. It's always nice to get a little reward for things. It always gives you that little bit of satisfaction when you do something cool and you get a little reward for it. So that's not going away anytime soon. Because of the power of the cloud.
So there can be only one gamer score. It'll carry over.
This cloud was made of more.
That's Microsoft. Let's talk Sony for a little bit, because we had mixed feelings toward, fairly just negative reactions to the idea of PlayStation Plus sort of now including you've got to subscribe to play online with your friends, but it's been like some depth's been added to it, like that, with publishers being able to decide if that's necessary for free-to-play multiplayer. So provisionally for Sony or for SOE and PlanetSide 2, you might be able to jump onto the PS4 and just play that straight away for nothing.
I would actually assume that the SOE published stuff will probably. I assume, I don't know, but I would assume that Sony's sort of first-party stuff will probably be quite keen for you to have PlayStation Plus. I'm just putting that out there.
On the
other hand, though,
this
this does make for an interesting idea where perhaps something like PlanetSide 2 could say you can play it for free, but if you have PlayStation Plus, we'll give you a certain amount of extra cert points per month, or a certain extra little bit of station cash per month, or priority access to servers, perhaps. They could quite easily do a tiered system like that, and that would be a great way of giving free players something and a hook to buy PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
Doing something like that would be tremendously clever. Whether or not they do it, we don't know. But
please do it, Sony. Please do it.
It will be great to see. Hopefully, a thriving free-to-play sort of ecosystem on the PS4 that will give you, just more options, more ways to play, more ways of playing online without having to have PlayStation Plus, but then perhaps tiered benefits if you do.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, so long as it doesn't become sort of have PlayStation Plus to win. I think that could be really exciting, and that looks like a really forward-thinking move.
I think I just like the idea of the choice involved. I mean, that's something that by and large the PS4 is seeming to embody. Which we love. Like, from a consumer perspective, from a dev perspective, choice is fantastic. It's what we want going for. We want openness on our platforms because it works well for sort of everyone concerned. And as three PC gamers sat here, I'm sure we can all attest to the benefits of that. But yeah, I agree. Like, if it's done in the right way, tiered systems would be an absolutely great way of, as you say, having a thriving ecosystem, and also incentivizing people to get into PlayStation Plus. Incentivizing rather than sort of forcefully pushing, which is what we feared the subscription for online play might do.
For sure. I'd also actually even like to see some more PlayStation Plus tiers come out as well. I know I've said this a fair bit, but because Sony Online Entertainment are on board with the PS4, I'd like to see maybe some sort of MMO pack that you could get that maybe will give you that ties in sort of premium subscriptions to MMOs, or a sort of mid-tier between the top sort of MMO subscriptions and just basic PlayStation Plus. So maybe you'd get priority server access, or you'd get some benefits if EverQuest Next, for example, came to the PS4, which it probably will. I'd like to see something like that, and the whole point is choice. I'd like to see there being more options in terms of choice on top of the base PS Plus subscription, so long as we don't have to pay extra for the instant game collection, because that would suck.
That would suck. A bit of other Sony news. Apparently, The Last Guardian is alive.
Oh, shut up! Shut up! Look, you do this.
Apparently,
you expertly raise our hopes and dash them. Before every major gaming event, Sony. You do this every year. But here's the thing. I mean, The Last Guardian seems pretty much like it might be a shoo-in for next gen now, or perhaps a last hurrah for the PS3. Apparently there are still people working on it. Ueda's still working on it in his freelance capacity. It does make you worry about Team Ico, like what sort of state they're in, because they haven't actually released anything this gen apart from the HD collection. But you know what? This seems like the perfect thing to announce at TGS.
Yep.
This seems like exactly the sort of title that you want to hold off on and then come out in Japan and say, hey, look, you guys, yeah, okay, so Kingdom Hearts 3 is non-exclusive and neither is Final Fantasy 15. But look, The Last Guardian is happening. You know you love it. So I wouldn't... If we're going to see The Last Guardian this year, we'll see it at TGS. Fingers crossed for Gamescom, but probably TGS. And if we don't, then I'm having trouble really. I'm actually getting bored of the whole thing now, frankly. As people have said on site, it's the game that a lot of people bought their PS3 for. So we're going to have to stop holding our breath for this at some point, or we'll asphyxiate.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. And it's interesting that well, obviously we had the overlap between PS2 and PS3, because the PS2 just refused to die, Sony kept releasing games for it. And Shadow of the Colossus was an awesome swan song for that platform, along with Final Fantasy 12. Just an absolutely beautiful game, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Team Ico Swan Song for the PS3 as well. But I agree, like it's turned into it's basically vaporware at this point.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And I think we should stop talking about it because I feel sad.
Okay, let's talk more about Battlefield 4, because Patrick Soderlund, who used to work at DICE and now sort of works in a larger capacity for EA, finally turned around and admitted that perhaps in Battlefield 3 they sort of glanced at Call of Duty's crib notes a little bit too much.
Yes, they totally did, didn't
They
they?
did.
I mean, we've been saying that for ages. Like, not in the multiplayer side of things. Battlefield multiplayer is its own wonderful beast. It has its own identity. It is fantastic. It's what we relate with the Battlefield brand. That big vehicle, big team, awesome multiplayer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it was like with Battlefield 3, EA looked at Call of Duty and said, well, Call of Duty, because that's how they talk, well, Call of Duty has a single player campaign, so yeah, we have to have one of those. And also it has co-op, so we better put that in. You better make sure it's really shit, though. Like, make sure you don't put any work into it. Like, if you ever think that it's too good, make sure that you put in an extra quick time event and don't let players actually fly the fucking plane. So, yeah, they fucked that up. And that's the problem is, because they released it as a full package, and because it was priced as a full package, we had to mark it down for that.
We did.
Our hands were tied. If you'd released it without that, and preferably at a lower RRP, so account for that. But if you'd just released it as a big, fat, sexy multiplayer game, we'd mark it in context.
I think the galling thing was for me that I actually really liked Bad Company 2 because do you know what they said? They said, okay, we're going to make a sort of console Battlefield experience. But what they actually did was they spent a lot of time on their single player and made it quite relatively open, stuffed it with characters. You know, it was quite a throwaway boys on adventure kind of thing. It was brilliant.
And that's
basically
the thing, because you cannot beat something by being it. That you cannot compete by just copying what your main competitor is doing. And Battlefield Bad Company knew that. DICE's strengths lie in those big vehicle, like especially in the original Bad Company, you know, those great big vehicle sections, big wide open maps, and funny characters who actually rib on those classic sort of very drab, very
Oscar
boring,
Mike.
pro-faced military campaigns, and totally totally subvert them, and make it funny, make it personable, make it amusing and tongue-in-cheek. That's what made Battlefield single player stand out. Not trying to be yet another, oh, the terrorists are coming, they have a nuclear device and we have to shoot them, let's stab a fucking rat. So yeah, I mean, just imagine if at that Battlefield 4, that reveal event they did a while back, you know, they started out and the music starts, the stinger starts, it's like da-dum-dum-dum-dum, da-dum-dum-dum-dum, and it comes up and there are guys loading up their guns and like loading the magazines into their guns, and suddenly da-dum-dum-dum-dum, tank convoys rolling through the streets, da-dum-dum-dum-dum, fighters screaming through the air, bristling with ordnance, shredding entire city blocks into matchsticks, da-dum-dum-da-dum-dum, huge boats shellacking the shoreline, da-dum-dum-da-dum, and then it zooms in on fucking Sweets, who makes an awesome joke. And then suddenly the rock music starts, and once again in my mind it's always laid down by Priestess, and it's bum 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 bum. Bad Company, wow, shooting people, driving tanks, smashing the tanks through the walls, loads of awesome one-liners, Predator references, bum 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 bum, and then it comes up Battlefield 4 and fades in below it, Bad Company. And then at that reveal event, just imagine everyone would be on their feet, cheering, ripping off their clothes, rubbing themselves against the people next to each other in the crowd, smearing themselves in celebratory oils.
Let it happen.
cheering, tossing babies out of commemorative baby tossing machines.
Okay, we should
It would
let
be
it happen.
totally.
No.
Okay,
It would be, and then of course everyone would settle down and then could watch the 17 minutes gameplay trailer. But that's not what happened. And that should have been what happened. But look, okay, back onto Battlefield 4 before I go and take my medication. Battlefield 4, they say is going to have, well, first of all, they say it's going to have levolution. It's going to be totally levolved. So that was one of the
I'm
most.
shaking my head right now.
That was one of the most stupid words that, apart from maybe Drivatar, that got mentioned at E3 this year. But yes, the thing is,
the levolution.
DICE have admitted that Battlefield 3 tried to be Call of Duty in everything except its multiplayer. And the problem is, even though they've admitted that, I kind of feel like it looks like they are doing the same with Battlefield 4. Yeah, it looks shiny, but you still got that big, fat, po-faced campaign with lots of emotionless, burly men shouting jargon at each other and shooting dogs in the street. And oh, the grindy, oh, look, it's so emotional. Oh, look, you've got to shoot the window of a car. Oh, look, oh, it's so emotional. Oh, the pain of war. War is hell. I still don't think that's the way to go. Like, if you want to do something like that, I would suggest EA release it as DLC and let us choose whether we want it. But yeah, it's a good sign that at least they've admitted it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that stacks up, not just with Battlefield 3, but with Call of Duty Ghosts as well. And I also look forward to ignoring it out of hand completely because we can base jump off of skyscrapers.
Yep.
So ultimately, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yep. But I totally agree that that sort of early 10-minute or so long single player gameplay trailer was everything that we didn't want.
Yep.
Like, absolutely everything that we didn't want. And that's why actually we cheered during the EA presser because we got 64-way multiplayer as we said in the Game Buzz the other day.
I got a bit excited.
Ribbons. Anyway, yeah, it was fantastic. And the thing is, it's possible to bring that scale, that sense of camaraderie into the single player. We've seen it before. And on next gen consoles, the AI stuff that you could do there, you could have like enormous pitched battles in single player with multiple vehicles and just freaking the freedom to do what you want to make sure your side proves victorious. It would be great. I don't think they're going to do that though. They're going to go down the scripted route and try and make it emotional. Because DICE actually came out. They came out the other day and said, "Yeah, we're leveraging all the emotion from this new engine."
Actually, I believe it's technically Levolution.
Levolution.
Levolution and Levolution.
Oh.
Levels with evolution. Evolutionary emotion.
That sounds like one of those made-up words you get in like a Nivea ad. Like, no.
Or Levolution Q-term. Or
Levolution. Banish aging
acid.
with Levolution.
Yeah,
no,
so...
Stop it!
Look, all I know is that we can blow up skyscrapers and then base jump off of said skyscrapers and then get into a tank, and then our commander can destroy entire tank convoys. So that's the bit that I'm going to be focusing on when I'm not playing Titanfall.
Damn straight. Really quickly, I just want to quickly jump from EA to Ubisoft and the Wii U.
Yes, well, yeah.
I loved your opening line on that, by the way.
Yes, I was going to say, I just thought I'd give everyone a little sort of wildlife lesson. I mean, it is important to realise that in nature, the guillemot is a very sort of opportunistic bird who'll eat other birds' eggs, who'll scavenge anything that they can find, who'll seize every opportunity to get ahead. That has nothing to do with anything, but of course, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, notice the difference in pronunciation, if not spelling, has basically not minced his words when it comes to the Wii U, because he was, Ubisoft are one of the very few major third-party publishers giving the Wii U some loving. And he was, well, apart from Rayman, of course, but he was asked whether or not this would continue, and he literally said, they must sell more. That's literally what he said. They must sell more. They have to sell more Wii U's, or we're going to not make as much stuff for it, which is fair enough. I mean, as we've said, like during their E3 Nintendo Direct presentation, Ninty revealed some absolutely cracking stuff. Real system sellers like Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers and potentially X, which is probably still one of my favorite looking games out of E3. But they're all coming in 2014. So, Nintendo has to, it's this horrible catch-22 where we need the third-party stuff now to tide us over, but they're not necessarily going to provide it because Nintendo are just stuck so deeply in development at the moment and started developing their big hitters way too late. And he's got a point. Sorry, but the Guillemot has a point.
It's interesting as well, sort of the sort of whispers coming out of that investor meeting saw Ubisoft calling for price cuts. And in sort of lieu of system sellers, that's kind of what Nintendo need to do.
Well, the problem now, I'm afraid, is that the PS4 costs 349 quid. So the Wii U needs a price cut. Like
Massively.
the desert needs the rain. Like I've been saying for a while that Nintendo can't afford to do it, but now they have to do it. It's like true fact, they have to do it. And also the fact is they've got to give you more hard drive space as well. Like I really feel they need to bring out a new model. If they want to offer a console at a premium price, they need to give us at least 200 gig. Because Wii U games, like they're about 15 gig. The Wii U hard drive is like 25 premium.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable.
And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous as well when you have to, like, without this price cut, you're essentially buying you're buying a console for 250 quid and then buying an external hard drive on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah, which is just to play more than one game, which is absolutely ridiculous.
But on the other hand, at least this week they've said, that Nintendo are still focusing very heavily on the retail market because, and I quite like this. They said that they're not worried about the pre-owned market when it comes to retail because they like to make good games that people don't want to trade in. Which is quite nice. Which is, as far as pre-owned games policies go, making really good games is probably my favourite one.
As the only one that makes sense, really.
I'm supposed to locking into DRM, but the problem is, of course, that's all lovely. And Miyamoto said as well, he compared himself to this sort of toy maker, almost Santa, by basically saying, "Look, I make these lovely toys for you that you can enjoy for years." The point is that, like your favourite childhood toys, like those fantastic wooden things maybe your grandfather made you, like, you will come back to those in years down the line and think,
and we do,
God, that was lovely, and play with it again and get transported back to our past without the servers being down or without having to log into some sort of online check-in service that no longer exists.
Of course, the trouble. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, that logic is all well and good, but they need to release more freaking games.
I agree, and the thing is, the trouble with having these lovely games that you go back and play, which we still do, we still game on NES and SNES and N64 and GameCube. There are games for those that I will just always be happy playing until I'm old grey. The trouble is that in order to sort of then incentivize people to buy your new stuff, it has to be different enough from your old templates to warrant inspection. And the big, like we've all ranted about it in the Game Buzz, on the site and articles. Nintendo haven't shown us games that will do that.
Well, they have, but they're coming out in 2014.
No, but even those, as you lamented, like, hark back to a 3DS title.
Oh no, that's coming out this. That's hilariously Super Mario 3D World. That's only major innovation appears to be cutting out the stereoscopic 3D from Super Mario 3D Land and replacing it with a catsuit. That is coming out in December, and that one title is going to have to compete with 2 next-gen consoles.
Yep.
That is like I've been
Flat
looking
as
for a
slow
definition. I've been looking for a definition of hubris for quite some time now, and that is up there. Yeah, I mean, Nintendo, to get back onto the original point, Nintendo should have got at least one of their big system sellers, not Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, one of their big actual system sellers out in time for Christmas, and it's unbelievable that they haven't managed to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I mean, I still think, you know, they say that they've got this fantastic back catalogue, and they do. Freaking release them on the eShop now. You know, being that we're going to have, I mean, we're already getting HD Zelda, but, you know, just release a whole bunch of GameCube and N64 games on the marketplace. Why the hell not? You might as well. Like,
That'd be lovely.
There's loads of like N64 games on the flipping Wii eShop. Can we have those on the Wii U? I mean, yes, I think you can actually access the Wii eShop through the Wii emulator that's built into the Wii U, but that's not exactly the most convenient thing ever, shall we say? And you've got to pay for it in Nintendo points. But you know, they might as well. Also, you could let us play 3DS games on it as well. Why not? You've got that fantastic catalogue there. God knows you could do some exclusives. I'd quite like to play a bit of Fire Emblem on my Wii U.
That'd be nice. And I
You
think
got
actually,
those two screens.
And I think actually to sort of like finish up on a more positive note, like if you haven't gotten this point from all of our coverage of E3 thus far, buy a 3DS immediately. Don't wait. Animal Crossing is out today. Go and do it. Stick it in your face. It will change your life because you'll be out in the sunshine, like street passing with all of the games. It's so good. That's the Dealsbone top tip for the like year.
Yeah, it's really awesome. You won't be disappointed. There's so much great stuff on there.
Totally freaking awesome.
And then buy Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yes. Because that's got some sweet Street Pass goodies.
Yes, it does.
And it's amazing.
Yes, it is.
It's really amazing. So yeah, we're going to finish on that note. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We will catch you next week. It'll just be myself and Carl next week, probably. Because John is off on his hiking adventures. We'll catch you then.
Need the exercise, frankly.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get outside. Forgotten what the sun looks like.
No, sun's scary.
Yeah, I'm going to be wearing my tinfoil suit. Obviously, I mean that thing is dangerous. It's irresponsible to go out there and like let any skin get in the way of all that horrible solar radiation. Seriously, that's our top tip.
Well,
always wear protection from the sun, lead lined if possible.
Wrap yourself in foil.
Indeed, bare minimum.
And there you have it. See, an extra tip. We'll catch you next time, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.